See you. Joe, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I apologize for not being there, but about 2 hours ago, I was diagnosed with conjunctivitis. You might even be able to see it. I'm sure you would rather not that I not be there. So
We concur. Highly contagious.
yes, yes.
In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, be advised that a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board in Town Hall and forwarding to the officially designated newspapers that this meeting would take place at Town Hall at 7 p.m. on Monday, November 14th, 2022. Meeting details and the draft agenda were also posted on our Township website. Please all stand to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Purpose? Ms. Stahl Eglo?
Here.
Mr. Vinayak?
Here.
Mr. Wasserman?
Here.
Mayor Megan's?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the August 16th, 2022 regular Township Committee minutes?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? May I have a motion to approve the August 16th special Township Committee minutes?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We have tonight with us Diane Nelson. We have a proclamation for the National Injury Prevention Day. Diane Nelson is a volunteer, Be Smart, a public education program focusing on securing firearm storage, and to accept the proclamation. And Mr. Wasserman, would you be good enough to present that?
Sure.
Ms. Nelson, thank you.
Let's make sure this works. Yeah, come right up. Proclamation, whereas injuries are the leading cause of death and disability to U.S. children ages 1 to 18, and whereas the Township of Millburn is committed to creating a safe environment contributing to the safety and well-being of our children, and whereas an estimated 54% of gun owners don't lock their guns securely, and an estimated 4.6 million children live in a home with at least one unlocked and loaded gun, and whereas almost every day a child gets their hands on a gun and unintentionally kills or injures themselves or someone else in the US. Whereas research shows that the best way to protect children and teens from accessing guns is to implement a secure firearm storage practices, and whereas protecting public safety in the communities they serve is the mayor's highest responsibility, and whereas hospitals, state agencies, community organizations are committed to their crucial role in reducing injuries and deaths by promoting safe practices, and whereas National Injury Prevention Day raises awareness and promotes efforts to reduce injuries among children, the Township of Millburn commends Be Smart, a program developed by Everytown for Gun Safety Support Fund and Moms Demand Action, and are all involved in their endeavor to protect children from injury. Now, therefore, may it be resolved that the mayor of the Township of Millburn declares 18th of November to be National Injury Prevention Day. Maggie Meggins, our mayor.
Thank you for doing that, Chair.
Yeah, thank you so much. Do you want to say a few words?
Yes.
Just like to say thank you to Mayor Miggins and the Township Committee for recognizing National Injury Prevention Day this year. Our work at Be Smart is all about protecting kids. And right now, firearms are the leading cause of death for children and teens in the United States. So we truly appreciate your support, and we hope to get the entire community behind us in this effort. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, we will now have a presentation for the Taylor Park Gateway from NKW and Associates.
Thank you.
Actually,
Alan? Yeah.
Mayor, first, if you and Deputy Mayor and the rest of the subcommittee members would like to introduce them.
Sure. Deputy Mayor, why don't you do that, please?
Oh,
Thank you so much.
so we have our representatives from MKW, and we have gone out for RFQs and RFPs, and your firm won to help us redesign or reimagine the gateway on Milburn Avenue. So it's kind of morphed from what we might have originally thought and intended, but let's see what you have to show us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us here this evening. It's great to see everyone again. By way of reintroduction, my name is Alan Juba. I'm a landscape architect who's principal in charge and president at MKW and Associates. With me tonight is Jim Welsh, who is senior landscape architect at MKW and Associates in Rutherford as well. We have got a quick presentation to show you this evening, probably about 12 or 15 slides or so. And again, look, we are really happy to be back again this evening to show you some of the ideas that we've come up with for the design of the gateway at Taylor Park. We began our design journey with everyone in Millburn who was interested in this project back in February, and that's February of this year. It's not last year, although some people may think it feels that long. It was February of this year when we met with the Taylor Park Gateway Subcommittee at the site to take a look at the project and to share some preliminary design thoughts about it. We then met with the general public in our public information session, number 1 at the end of March. That was March the 29th. Came up and heard a lot of different ideas of what people would like to see happen in this particular part of Taylor Park. We went back and came up with some various design options, and we showed them to everyone interested in the project at our second public info session back in the beginning of June of this year. And then we've had subsequent meetings beyond that with the Taylor Park Gateway Subcommittee as we've refined our design and have honed it in, things of that nature. I should mention that we also met electronically at both of those public meetings. So people who were not able to be here in person were able to offer any thoughts and comments at both of those public meetings. I'm going to let Jim talk about the details of our consensus design, what we're describing as our consensus design, and we'll go through that for everyone's
Wonderful, thank you.
education. Thank you.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Let's advance a couple slides. So as I was saying, we came to the site, we visited it, became familiar with it. So we just have some pictures of the site back in February when we started out. Let's continue, a couple more slides. We did a site analysis. We started to understand and really document what our thoughts were on the site and what was there and what were the pieces of the park that we could work with. We looked at the circulation surrounding the park and how that may impact the design of the park as well. And as I was saying, we had 2 public information sessions, one back in March and then another one in June, right here in this room so that everybody could be involved. We also did it digitally. That was wonderful. And then we had follow-up meetings with the subcommittee and kind of tweaked the design and worked things out. So basically at public information session number 2, we presented 4 designs. From those 4 designs, a preferred option. Everybody who was here had a chance to vote, and everybody online also had a chance to vote on what was their preferred design. So we understood from that what the preferred design was. We brought that information back to the subcommittee. We reviewed things with them, and as I said, we kind of tweaked things and just kind of massaged the design a little bit to get it really into good shape for you here tonight. And what you're seeing on the screen now is the overall design. We think it's a wonderful design because it's been put together through the efforts of the subcommittee as well as the community in general. The ideas and basic ideas of the design, along Milburn Avenue, we have two entries into the park itself. The one on the right side is coming from a higher grade, so it's a little bit higher in there, but it also has the view coming down Lackawanna there. There will be an actual gateway, an arch type structure that you can walk into the park. As you come into the park, there's a little space there for some seating. If you're coming in on the other side, closer to the left side of the drawing, that's more of a ramp type entry into the space. We'll show an enlargement in a second. Basically what you're doing is you're coming down into the rose garden area. The rose garden is pretty much remaining the same. We're enhancing what is currently there with some new paving and a new structure. And then you flow through. We keep the axis of the rose garden and bring you down into the main portion of the body of the park there. So let's zoom into each portion of the park here. This is the north end of the park closest to Milburn Avenue. As you can see, we have on the left side the sidewalk that'll enter into the park. There's a couple of tables and chairs there. So if you happen to be along Milburn Avenue, grabbing lunch, grabbing something to eat, you have a place to come into the park, get a few feet off of Main Street and enjoy your lunch or your snack there. We have relocated the bus stop and moved that down a little closer, more central in the park, just to the left of the big existing elm tree that we wanted to save. And as I noted before, on the right side is the gateway arch that you would see as you come down Lackawanna. And you walk into an area where there are a couple of benches. Once again, a place where you can just sit with some friends or read a book, whatever. Come down some stairs and get down into the main park. The left side entry is the accessible entry. There's a ramp there with handrails. The right side is more of the stepped entry, picking up more of the grade change that happens there. We'll go to the next slide. This next slide, you can see that we're maintaining the four quadrants of the rose garden. We're enhancing the walkways going through them, making them a little bit wider, making them paved with a hard, like a brick or a concrete paver type of material. Outlining the circle, adding some benches along the perimeter, and then also having some lawn areas around the edges. The garden area will be separated from the adjacent properties with pretty lush planting along the edges, up against the fences and near the building walls. And then we can go to the next slide. And then the connection. This is the connection to the main park there. We continue the access, but we change the material from that brick paver. We're really maintaining and using that just in the area of the rose garden itself. And it goes to a concrete walk that brings you down to the area closer to the baseball field, closer to the flagpole. The walkways are on axis aligned with the flagpole that's there. We want to keep that as an important feature of the park and recognize that. The little semicircle as the entry into that space along near the baseball field has seat walls around it so that people can sit and kind of pause for a moment before they go into the rose garden or as they're leaving the rose garden. Another feature of this portion of the park is the lawn. There's a big lawn area on the south end of the rose garden. Along the edge of that lawn is an arc of stepping stone pavers, maybe like 2x2 bluestone pieces or something like that. And you can basically use those to walk along the edge of the lawn and get to some benches, sit under the trees and enjoy some shade there. The planting between the lawn and the major portion of the park where the baseball field is basically just that. It's planting is designed to be a separator so that the rose garden will be a different room within the park, a different place. It's still part of the overall park, but a different room within the larger park space. Slide. And then we're just back to an overall view of the park. If you have any questions, be happy to answer.
Yes. Do you have a, hold on one second.
Oh, you're asking. Wait, my.
I'll wait to the end,
You'll wait till
Mhm.
you wait till the end.
see what the people want to say.
Mr. Benaya.
Excuse me?
What is the total area?
I'm gonna say a little over half an acre.
I think that's about right.
So that half acre that your landscaping is that $1.7 million that you're putting in the next slide? That I have this sheet here?
Yes.
1.8 million?
Yes, we have 2 more slides, I guess. I was gonna answer your question about the design. We can go to this. The proposed cost estimate is $1.8 million for the construction. And the next slide is, if we continue on from tonight, we were hoping to receive approval for the design so we can move forward with the rest of the design, meaning construction documents that we put out to bid. And that would basically be a period that could take us from January through June, July of 2023. And the construction, basically, we would anticipate being from August into run about 10 months into April of 2024.
Can you go back 2 slides? Just- Thank you. So in this, the construction that is happening are the pavers?
Pavers are part of it,
Put your
yeah.
mic on. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Could you please explain this again? This is pavers and what else is there? The benches?
Benches, a lot of new planting. There is an arch gateway that you can walk through.
Right.
There's new accessible walkways throughout that get you down. Right now, the current configuration is not accessible. The walkways are too steep. We're moving the bus stop from where it currently is to an area that's basically right in front of where the buses would be. Right now, it's kind of a little bit further north of where the buses pull in. It's more towards the intersection. So as that bus stop moves, we're having new benches there as well. We're including a new gazebo, a new structure over there. It's a larger structure.
That's the one right in the middle.
Yes.
Okay.
There's also a new set of steps that is bringing people down from sidewalk level to the rose garden level as well. So there's a bit of hardscape here, most definitely.
Okay, thank you.
And did you, when you decided to move the bus stop, did you give any consideration to moving it towards the right-hand side? I mean, what was your thinking in moving the bus stop to the middle?
We're moving the bus shelter.
Yeah.
The buses stop more in the middle from the way the curves are and where the curves are painted yellow, and so
Yeah, I mean, we've had a little experience in the town where we can ask New Jersey Transit to move the bus stop to the end of the block. I just want you to know that the bus stop, it's not necessarily fixed in that area. It's possible to move it if you thought that would help your design.
okay. No, we liked it where we located it, but
I'm just saying, like, there's a little more flexibility if that would help the design at all, but I don't know what thought you put in.
I thought we did move the bus stop further east. You just moved
we moved it west,
west.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
left on the
I'm
drawing.
just saying, Diane, that if you look towards the end of, to the right-hand side, it's,
There you go.
I'm just saying it's possible if it would open that up for anything else, it's possible to move it all the way to the right-hand side, potentially.
I think that's really where it is currently.
Oh, okay. Are all the pavers, do they let the water through?
That is a detail that hasn't been fully designed yet. But it's something that will be considered in the next phases of design if it's approved.
Okay, so in other words, the materials could absorb water. It's possible that the materials could absorb water.
It's possible, yes.
Okay, I guess I should have someone put this in front of me after what we started. So the people who were on the committee who were part of this was Chris Drucker in the back representing the rec committee, Steve Grillo representing Explore Milburn, Juliet Davis representing the Short Hills Garden Club, Tom Doty, superintendent of DPW, and also Shade Tree at that point, Jesse Moman, Mike Stone's Paper Mill, Mark Robinson, who, well, he does a lot of things. I don't know, we would title him, Priya Patel, Environmental Commission, and Maggie and myself. So this went through a lot of iterations, and it was never intended to destroy the Rose Garden as somehow got misrepresented. That was never the intent. The intent was really to clean up the underbrush that Jess and I were talking about 5 years ago, to clean up the weeds and the really old trees. The intent was to make it safer on Milburn Avenue, to open up the gateway. And part of the intent that I think I'm a little disappointed that didn't happen was to provide some entertainment for the Paper Mill and Explore Milburn. Because eventually we knew Main Street might not always be closed. So it was to also provide not a gigantic amphitheater. I mean, everything really got ramped out of like kind of perspective when people were talking and getting on social media about this. And that was a little disappointing to me that it got a little overblown. It really was to beautify, to add safety, to add newer plantings. Some of the plantings there are very, very old. So I think you added seating. There was a lack of places to sit. If you've gone in there, the benches are in deplorable condition. I think it's just too bad that we missed the mark on having any kind of place for Explore Milburn to do like a little trio or Paper Mill to do like a little focus on an upcoming show. And I think that is missing from this. So, I mean, I'll just say that, but otherwise, and the pavers, Richard, pavers can be impervious. And one thing I spoke about that we should really consider, it's a lot of pavers, 1,000 people signed, Save the Rose Garden. I'm gonna put it out in public now. Those 1,000 people should all buy a brick paver. That would be a tremendous asset monetarily, and everyone would get their name on there. So I think if we go through with this, that really has to be considered. The gazebo is gonna be one of those new, what do you call that material? Not that wood that's constantly being painted Trex, like my deck is now, yeah. It'll be what, composite, right, cement, composite, something that's gonna last, there'll be lighting in there. Will we have Wi-Fi in the park, Alex?
That is something that is being worked on.
Okay, so you'll have Wi-Fi, so you can do your work. So I think a little more seating, benches would be nice. I sent you a picture from NJIT, was it?
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful, really beautiful. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a great improvement. Something has to be done. I don't know if we're all gonna decide. I haven't spoken to my other committee members how they feel about this, but that's my final thoughts on that.
Well, it would be wonderful to do something because the 100th anniversary of Taylor Park will be occurring on, if I remember the date correctly, May 30th of 2024. So the schedule that we put up here showed a 10-month construction period, which we think is, adequate to get this project done. And between now and then our design period for occurring over the next 5 or 6 months or so, that brings us right like till the end of May of 2024.
Which also is cherry blossom season, isn't it?
A little after.
A little after. Okay, so we have 2 parties in the park.
There you go.
All right.
Would the park be available for use during the construction period or not? Or is that piece blocked off?
I think given the size of this, how small it is, it would probably need to be fenced off while construction is happening.
And that's in August, starting in August of 23.
That's correct.
And would it cost a lot more to make the stones or brick pervious to water? I mean, is that a much bigger expense?
No, I don't think it adds significantly to it. And honestly, it's not the pavers themselves that are pervious, but it's the joints between the pavers that are allowing the water to permeate. But I don't think there's much of an upcharge for using such a material, if any.
Yeah, but that's something, as we know, it's something we should really consider.
We heard that many times during our listening sessions.
Yes.
And I think you purposely picked plants that would go well if there was a water situation in the park. You're gonna have it graded for a water situation. You have a couple of rain gardens in there that don't exist now.
Indeed, the rain gardens and whatever plants have been selected
Mhm.
are meant to tolerate periodic inundation.
And I think what's really important is anyone who comes up from the baseball field, if you see those old what are those?
Used.
Yes.
Those are so used.
Yes.
They really have to go and open the space to the public. It was really about making the park accessible to our residents, giving them
Exactly.
space that they can use, which it's not now.
Not just physically accessible,
Yeah.
which we do with the ramps and the steps,
Mhm.
but also visually accessible. And I
Right.
think, removing those yew hedges, the big blue atlas cedars that are in that area that separate this so much from Taylor Park proper are being removed, so this really becomes a part of the overall
Right.
park.
And speaking of accessibility, when you come down from Milburn Avenue, that is not ADA compliant,
Not at
it's
all.
not safe.
Not at
So
all.
I know a few people who have fallen there, it's very, if you come down with a baby carriage. So there's a lot of reasons why this was talked about several years ago, and this is what we've come to. So I
Exactly.
think we need to improve our town, so this is how we start.
Have you thought about, and Diane, you mentioned like the pavers, maybe getting people to buy pavers.
Mhm.
Have you thought about like naming opportunities to defer any of the expense, like?
Well, if 1,000 people buy a paver, that's a lot of names.
Well, we have, I mean.
I'll buy a paver.
Yeah, I'm
You
just
in?
saying, I'm old. So-
All right, in for a paver.
I'm in for a favor. The only thing is like, is there any other naming opportunity? It's still a very.
No, it's a public park. I don't think you can have someone name the gazebo.
Alex, do you have a question?
Yeah, I mean, the one question that I have is that of the $1.8 million, about 312,000 is contingency. Is that a normal amount of contingency? Do you anticipate that contingency being utilized? What is the purpose of it?
That is a normal amount of contingency that we see at this level of an estimate. We're at the very beginning of the design process here, which is schematic design. So the contingency that's being shown there is about 21% in total, which is when you do the math, if we add a 10% design contingency to the project, because there may be some design issues that will come up as we go into design development and construction documentation, that will cover. And then when you add another 10% construction contingency on top of the 10% design contingency, it ends up being about a total of 21%. The construction contingency is money that is just added to the estimate upfront like this, for any unforeseen circumstances that might arise in the field. For example, there may be a gas line here that no one knows about or something like that, and we have to work around that. I'm not saying that's the case, but just as a complete example. As we get more and more into design development and construction documentation, those percentages of contingencies will come down. There's a lot of fact built into this, given the very early stage of design that we're at.
And as we experienced with complete streets, the overages were constant. So I think it's to be more protective.
Do you have to come back to the committee every time you want to touch that contingency? Come back to the town?
It's not a formal contingency that requires permission for it to be used. Rather, it's just a volume, a chunk of money that we're putting into our estimate so that everyone knows the general budget that we're looking at, basically.
Out of all the projects that you've done over the years, how many have used the contingency and how many have not?
We've always built in contingencies whenever we're doing estimates for projects, most definitely.
And how many have not been used?
Like to usually hit.
Oh, I understand what you're saying.
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear, I apologize.
No, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
And who would supervise the work?
I think that remains to be seen, if in fact a construction manager will be hired by the town of Milburn in order to do that.
Alex, my experience in my tenure is that there's always site supervision.
Correct.
Is that the way we generally work?
I thought that was built in, about 10% is what we consider towards the construction manager. So when it was 21%, I thought that was built in, but maybe not.
No, this is,
Maybe it would be more.
the contingency that we've got in this estimate is just for design contingency. As we proceed through design, And then construction contingency for such unforeseen circumstances that present themselves in the future.
Is that something Alex, is that something our engineers could supervise?
Well, I think it depends on, quite honestly, I mean, it's a fairly big project and it's a very visible project, so I think, and, it's in a public space, so I think you want to make sure that there's, consistent eyes on it. I think what you can do with construction management is you can tailor it to what you feel the particular project needs, whether it's, 2 days a week of supervision, check-in, or whether it's, more or less than that. I think you can quote, play with that value in terms of the construction management based on what you feel the need is with the project. I believe that there's also a degree of synergy sometimes when, and I don't know if MKW is a construction manager on any of your projects, but if you oversee, construction, I don't know if that was part of all this, but, I think there's ways that, particularly within this budget and within, even with those contingencies as they had stated, that's not always, that's kind of what giving you the worst case scenario at this point, because, even between now and then, there might be a slight escalation in cost depending on the materials and different things like that. And that's why, I do feel it's a smart idea to have that contingency in there. It's not necessarily necessary that it's used, but it's there.
So, well, who would provide that? You, Boswell, or the town would hire a construction overseer?
The town would hire the construction manager.
Manager, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do you do that at 4 feet?
We provide periodic construction period services, meaning that we will come to the site when issues arise. We will review submittals that the contractor gets to us to make sure that what is being installed is as specified. We will respond to contractors' questions, but we are not on the site on a day-to-day basis. It's what we call periodic construction supervision.
And how long will the construction take?
We're figuring about 10 months.
Wow, so, I mean, that's a long time. I mean, it's a long time not to have somebody kind of on the, watching everything.
Yeah, it is.
I guess you can compare it to when you build your house, your architect isn't on site, the contractor's on site.
Indeed.
And when you need the architect to come in, if there's an issue, but it really becomes the contractor and the engineering drawings.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
Have you built in, I'm sorry,
no, I'm done.
have you built in any time within these 10 months of construction, you building in extra time as well? Or is that, you think it will take 10 months?
No, I think there's a little bit of fat in that as well. They might be able to do it in 8 or 9 months, but certainly not less than that.
Okay,
Schedule, Jesse?
saying
we
that
do
in
like-
May, yeah.
We do like the fact that it's ending in kind of March, April, because usually the end of the project is when planting is happening. And that's kind of a good time for that to be happening. So,
Plus we have Memorial Day parades in May, March up past that.
In addition, your house, your inconvenience.
Yes, yes.
What'd you say?
How do
Sorry,
you
say
go to
that.
Your microphone.
2024?
Cindy, put your microphone.
10 months of construction, starting in middle of 2023, in
Wow.
August of 2023,
Okay, so it's just the construction is 10 months.
Mhm.
just for
Yes.
construction.
Wow.
And this did come, I don't know if you mentioned it, but this did come from our vision study that Carol Griffiths and I, Diane, some said, participated in. And that's where this project kind of was born.
Okay.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, I mean, my only hesitation is for 10 months. I mean, I think, Alex, we'd have to, 10 months, even when we fix complete streets, we were really, I mean, the construction people were really on top of it. And I'm just think that 10 months is a long time. I mean, I think we have to have proper supervision of the project.
Yeah, I'm not in disagreement. I just think that depending upon the job and the type and the work that's going on, you can really tailor that to be, again, every day or twice a week, whatever it is in terms of construction management.
And just for the committee to consider, so the next steps would be if the committee were to decide that they wanted to move forward with the design, the next step would be to give MKW the notice to proceed with the preparation of construction documents and to finish up the design development. But other than that, once they prepare those, then the committee would then vote to authorize going out to bids at a later date. And so that's kind of the stage that we're in right now, where they're wrapping up design development, but they're not yet in the construction phase. They would just need the notice to proceed from you all.
Okay. I would say go ahead. You have to, keep the town beautiful, keep everything moving and safe, and I don't know what the hesitation would be, honestly. Okay, Mr. Wasserman?
Listen, I was involved in the visioning statement, and I think when we did visioning, I think the input we got was that the park is not utilized enough. In other words, we have such a great park, and with such a small entrance, that it'd be nice to open the park and let everybody see the beautiful roses and experience the beauty of the park. And it kind of goes along with the theme. A lot of the times when I open my mouth, I always say, stay local, eat local, shop local. And I think that that if you can beautify the park, open the entrances, fix the rose garden, and make it a place a destination, I think it would be worth it. I do think that we need to have site supervision. I think that I also am very concerned about the pervious, about making sure, now that we've been through a flood, I think that's really important. I mean, I wouldn't want to break the budget over it, but I think it's important that when the next flood comes, that this project can withstand that and the water can go through it, and we're not going to be scratching our heads at how do we repair this now. So we have to make sure that that's done. But I would certainly, with site supervision and with some other tweaking, I certainly would be for it, especially since the roses are going to be enhanced. We have so many people here that love the roses. It's a lot of money, but this is a lot more than I thought it would be. But I think it is something that that I could see the town being enhanced by it.
Mr. Benoit?
I actually agree with Mr. Wasserman on, I thought it was going to be much less on the expense side. It was more of an opening of the park and people going in there and sitting. But $1.8 million is where it is kind of surprise to me, or a little shock to me. I believe it's the same pool that we have in our budget. We are looking at $600,000 incremental on health benefit for employees. We have $500,000 incremental on the pension plan. And then we have flood mitigation going on. And then we have fields to look into. So overall, in the priority of the scheme of the thing, I feel $1.8 million is a lot of money. Not, with all due respect, I want this to open up and look beautiful, but in a priority schema of thing, I think $1.8 million putting in this project, in half-acre project, is a bit too much for me to say yes. If it can be controlled, I would be happy to say yes.
Ms. Prupus isn't here to give her opinion either.
What say you?
I might suggest that we wait to vote on this or do anything until Ms. Prupus is here, so that the whole full committee is here before we do anything with this. That's what I say.
Can I ask what you feel about the project? You were very involved with it.
Oh, I happen to like it. I can appreciate Mr. Vinayak's worry about cost. I think I'm always mindful of cost. I didn't think it would come in that high either at 1.8. I don't know why 1.4 was in my mind. I think that the site needs some fixing, some lighting, and it's very dark in there, and so I would prefer to see something done as well. I'm just very mindful of, as Mr. Vinayak says, we have $600,000 coming at us with healthcare cost and $500,000 pension. Like, we have all these other expenses coming at us, and that worries me. Yet at the same time, I'd like to see something happen. So I think, I don't want to throw the baby out with bathwater, but I think maybe we could scale it a little different.
And Mayor, when I said that, and there are some people who always talk about, oh, we haven't raised taxes in the last 2 years. Now it'll be so much taxes raised because now it'll be financial crisis. I'm on the finance subcommittee
Yes.
and I look at the financials.
Yes.
We are in a very good shape financially,
Good.
but I would like to keep it that way going forward.
Yes.
At least as long as I'm on the finance committee, I would like to make sure we are financially in a good shape.
Do you think, is there, if we wanted to scale, this is more a question for Diana, if we wanted to tweak the expense a little bit, is there anything we could do to lower the expense to, I don't know, to bring it in closer to like $1.5 million? Is there any way to do that without?
Well, I would keep thinking, there's so much, everything costs money. The town is an aging town. That park has not been touched since I've been here since I think I moved here in 1960 something. It's like, we have to oh my God, I have 2 more meetings after this. So I'm not the one to vote on it in 2023. What I'm saying is, let's leave some good projects moving forward. The town hall now has a leak in the back. You can't every time say that something needs to be done. Well, wait a minute, other costs are going up. That's reality, Mr. Vinayak. And to hold off a beautification downtown because something else is gonna happen, then you know what? It'll never get done, but it's not gonna be on me. I'm gonna vote yes for it if I have the opportunity. It is more than I thought it would be, but it's also, the project grew more than I thought it would be. So, you know what?
Mr. McDonald,
I'm gonna
say
tell you.
something.
Yeah, I was just gonna maybe make the suggestion that that Jesse and I with MKW maybe go through a bit of an exercise of, where there are areas that could potentially be value engineered a little bit, and also even to Ms. Eglo's idea about, brick donation or something like that. What would that do in terms of the cost of the project? And I think, again, what you're looking at is bare bones a $1.4 million project. But with the contingency, it's a $1.8 million project. So, and so, the question would be, is there a number that is particularly more palatable? But I think if we can come back to you with some additional, avenues, maybe that would be helpful to get this, potentially, moving forward.
I think everybody wants it.
Yeah, even 1.4 for me is actually high. So
Yeah.
again,
Understood.
I agree and I respect Ms. Eglo on saying that we need to move forward with good projects. And when things break down, we need to make it better. But maintenance is always a part of it. We always need to maintain what we have. We should not just ignore it. So that part, I'm not saying get away and not spend at all. We need to spend money. We need to keep maintaining it. Whenever we make new stuff, we have to maintain that too. So I'm not saying that there should nothing be done, but I just think it should be mindful when in the priority of scheme of thing, we need to look at what the priorities are, because money is coming from the same pool. When it goes to taxes, we are the people, including all of us, are paying for it. And yes, it may be very important, but it could be scaled down. Again, that is my thought process, and I understand, Ms. Eglo, your thought process is a little different.
Right, and I understand that you want fields and that's like really your priority, but I don't think it's really fair to say, well, no, let me
Yeah,
finish.
don't say
No,
what
I'm
is
not.
important to me.
Mr.
I did not
Matt,
say that.
Let me finish.
But did I say field
I
right now?
want to, yeah, you did say fields.
Right now? Okay,
Seconds ago.
so don't
Mr.
just
Vinayak, what I'm
please.
saying is, Mr. Vinayak, please, what I'm saying is you can't say because we need fields that we shouldn't freshen up a 100-year-old park.
So I think the best thing is gonna happen is that Mr. McDonald, Mr. Molman are gonna go back to the gentleman and their company, and then they'll get back to us after you've done some value engineering. How's that? Fair?
Can we do this because my
Yes.
tenure is also a little more limited.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
maybe if
For
we can,
next meeting.
yeah, maybe we
The
can
next
put it, let's agree to put it on for the next meeting, so
Absolutely.
we can have it, so I can
Perfect.
potentially vote on it.
This is our anti-penultimate meeting, Richard.
Yeah.
Look that one up today.
Anyway, but if you could do that, and if you want to go over the design and give it, maybe for the next meeting, if you wanted to have a couple options in terms of, what could be done price wise. We also have to make sure that we address the site supervision. We
Right, definitely.
cannot, even if it makes the price worse, we have to have site supervision.
Understood.
Thank you so much. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for
Thanks.
coming.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I have a question for the gentleman.
You may.
Sir, so I appreciated the this isn't my normal getting up.
No,
rest.
go ahead, Ms. Feld.
So thank you. So I'm Fran Feld. I've been living in town for 40 years and I actually live across the street from the park. So there probably aren't too many people here, not here, but in town, that can say they lived across from Taylor Park for 40 years. It's aging myself. But the point is, I've made use of that park. It's one of the reasons I bought my house where it is and haven't never moved away to Short Hills, because I love living by the park. That said, I just wondered where the elevation was to show the view from Milburn Avenue with the new gate and where, the look, the view, like your cover sheet was the view from Milburn Avenue, looking into the park, but you don't have the replacement view that goes with those drawings. Do you have it and it just didn't bring it tonight? Or I was hoping to see, what are we gonna look at when we look at this gateway that's so important to some people here? What is that gonna look like? So I wanted, if it was here, I would love for us to all see it before you go.
Well, it's not part of the
She wants
presentation, but
this.
we haven't developed it just yet.
It's not developed.
Yes.
Okay, that's the answer.
Thank you.
May I just, I had a couple of questions for them that's unrelated to my public comment. I'll make it a minute unless.
You know what we're gonna do? If you have questions, you can ask the gentleman. We're gonna continue
Okay,
with
then
our
I'll
meeting.
email you guys.
Okay, yeah, or no, you can ask the gentleman. You can go out in the hallway and ask the gentleman. We're gonna continue with,
In front of you, I'll send you an email.
okay,
Thank you.
in reports, okay. Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
very
Thank you.
Good Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yes. Right, our next meeting. is December.
Yeah.
Yeah, go speak to them outside, sure. Okay, we will now consider reports. Our professionals and committee members may directly report on matters under their purview. We'll start with our business administrator, Alex McDonald. Do you have anything to report on, Mr. McDonald?
Just a few project updates. Just wanted to let the township committee as well as the public know that we are in process with the safety improvement project, which includes running fiber throughout the township. We anticipate the physical work and equipment being completed by early 2023. Setup following that work will take some time with regard to the technology and different things like that, but we are in process and things are going smoothly thus far. Short Hills Avenue. I know there have been several complaints about the condition of Short Hills Avenue, but we just completed the sanitary sewer repairs. There are about 6 spots within Short Hills Avenue that needed to be repaired. We are expecting milling and paving as early as Friday, but that could be pushed to Monday, Tuesday of the following week. We are hopeful to get that completed before the Thanksgiving holiday.
So that means it'll be closed down. Short Hills Avenue is closed.
Yes, there will be some closures.
Okay.
Depending on milling, usually can be done on one side of the street at a time, things like that. But those will be communicated as well. If we feel like we're gonna run into the holiday, then we will wait until after the holiday. We had 2 successful public sessions on the Short Hills train station. Learned a lot from the residents and users. And we've taken that feedback into some reworking and reevaluation of the design. The Zoom meeting has been placed on the PSAB, the Pedestrian Safety Advisory Board page of the website. So for those that weren't able to make it, they can certainly view it there. But those were very good sessions. And lastly, just for those, and don't mean to steal Richard or Sanjeev's thunder, but just wanted to let everyone know that the flood mitigation meeting, the public session that's supposed to be on Wednesday, November 16th, will be postponed until November 30th. That was all I had. Oh, sorry. Just 2 reminders. One, reminder for all commercial businesses that currently receive garbage pickup from the township that will cease beginning 1/1/2023. And also a reminder, which we have been putting out several reminders both on Facebook and the website and various locations, that Zone 6 who has their recycling picked up on Saturdays will be picked up on Fridays, starting on 1/1/23. So again, that zone 6 only recycling is being moved to Fridays.
Can we put a note to them? Can we?
Oh,
say-
yeah, we have specific notifications going out to those zones as well,
Okay.
that zone as well.
Mr. Vinaya?
So I'll continue on Mr. McDonald on the flood mitigation. We had a very good projects opening, or we all were there. Our Assemblyman John McCune also came in to show his support there. It was a great opening. The project is started, the true drainage project in South Mountain area. That will help. After the storm is done, the water will seep through the drainage project quicker than what it was before. Some houses there was kind of in water after 24 hours of the Ida happened to, in their backyards and also in their basement. So that will help them. The third drainage program is next year. We are still reaching out to those residents there. We hadn't gotten enough responses back last year, but this year, those people have started coming on to the flood mitigation public team meetings, or that happened a couple months ago or a few weeks ago. And that seems promising too. If they also decide to move ahead with that, that'll be the third drainage project that we wanted to do, or the flood mitigation team want to do it there. Other than that, we had a very good trip, and I don't want to steal your thunder here. You want to continue on that?
If you twist my arm, I'll give you, yeah, we, so Mr. Vinayak and I, we're very excited. We're very excited to report that, that we met with Orange officials and toured the Orange Reservoir infrastructure 2 weeks ago. As far as I know, this is the first time that our town and our engineers have actually seen the infrastructure and the drainage pipes. We discovered that there were 2 valves as well as 2 pipes that did not work. This could be a game changer for our flood mitigation efforts. If we could arrange to fix or replace this broken infrastructure, it's possible that there would be a new way forward for us. Right now, all of our efforts have been on trying to implement a new bypass for this reservoir. We never realized that we might be able to repair and use what's already there. We still have a lot more work to do, a lot more testing to do. We also have to, there also has to be new measurements of the depth of the reservoir, which hasn't been done. We've always gone by old records. But in closing, I think that we really discovered, a possible new path, and I really want to give credit to Mr. Vinayak and our engineers on our committee, and I'm really hopeful that this could make all the difference and potentially save this township, a lot of problems for the next flood, as well as millions of dollars in terms of pursuing a bypass if we could get this fixed another way. And again, it's still all up in the air, and it could still go different ways. But I think that for years, there's been a lot of discussion over this, and really for the first time, our engineers, really took a good look at what's there. And I'm very hopeful that we can work closely with Orange to get this fixed, and maybe there's a bypass, a smaller bypass that's already built in.
So when we are talking about bypass, and when we were talking as bypass, we were talking about having 2 drain pipes going under and getting the water out before any storm comes in. So that project would have costed millions of dollars. And when we went there, what Mr. Wasserman just said is, we already found those pipes are already there. It may not be as big of a size as we were looking for, at least one of them, but it actually helps the project already fast forward, or if we fix those pipes, it will not be as bigger of an expense that we were thinking. So, and it may not be that bigger of a impact, but it will be impact there. We can at least have something done. And one big thanks to Mr. Alex McDonald, who actually set up the site visit and made us all go there, and we were able to figure things out. That's where John Rushkey is looking at the pipes. Those are the two pipes under those concrete. And last thing on my report is fiber project, as Mr. McDonald said. This fiber project is in the infancy phase right now. Once it's done, we will probably have internet connection to Township with those fibers that are running through Township, and more security in the Township, where we can make use of those fibers that are going through the Township infrastructure.
That's why I mentioned the Wi-Fi in the park. That is something that can be a result of having that dedicated fiber. But that's sort of the added benefit of that, and not the primary function of the project.
Thank you.
No other reports?
No.
Any
Yeah,
other reports?
I do,
Mr.
just a
Wasserman?
short, I've already spoken too much, but
Not
Mr. Vinayak and I met with Dr. Burton this morning as part of our liaison duties. We're actually, and we updated her on the progress of our current developments happening in the township. And she let us know that the current attendance number as of October is 4,804 students. And she noted that the number of students has over the last 5 years gone from 5,000 to currently 4,804. And that was interesting. So the trend has been slightly downward, which is hopeful, for us in the future. Did you want to add anything?
Yeah, so it was a coincidental. We were going to meet our Board of Ed members.
Yeah.
And we ended up meeting with Dr. Burton. And she had mentioned about having 5,000 students when we had 7 buildings. Then we got the new school, Washington School, and now the total attendance is 4,804 with the 1 building less. With the students, when they come in more, it will be pressure on middle school and high school,
Right.
where possibilities are.
Yeah.
So if that comes to stage, they may have to think over building
Yeah.
over those. But again, this is very preliminary, and it was interesting to see and hear those numbers that she was talking about.
Yeah, but I think the point is that the township and the schools are actually working closely, communicating closely. I know Alex is in touch with the superintendent also. And aside from that, I'll be, just the last thing I'll say is that I'll be introducing the budget for Explore Milburn this evening. And so we'll get to more detail, a lot of detail will come out from the budget. Mr. Grillo is going to present it. I do want to report that we had a blockbuster Home for the Holidays event a little over a week ago. I'm so excited to report that we had hundreds of people come to this showcase, and dozens of merchants worked together to present their holiday merchandise. The evening culminated with an amazing fashion show with many of our local citizens participating, including our very own fire chief. So it was really a lot of fun, and it was great to see our merchants actually working together. And there was a lot of excitement building for the residents for the holidays. As you can see, as you can see from these handouts, we actually have a very robust, Explore Milburn has a very robust schedule for the holidays. I hope everybody takes these, or will have these on the desk. And again, stay local, spend your money here, eat here, and there's a lot of fun things going on over the next several weeks. So please stay and enjoy. And those are my.
And that's it. Ms. Eglo has no reports.
Correct.
Ms. Eglo says she has no reports. I don't either. And so we can move on to our special report for 2022 best practices inventory.
So the township is required to fill out the best practice inventory each year. this has already been submitted. It had to be submitted by the 10th of November. But and the Township Committee has received a copy. So the 2022 Best Practice Inventory assesses each municipality's compliance with various laws and evaluates implementation of fiscal and operational best practices. Inventory answers provide taxpayers an additional means of evaluating the municipality's performance. The inventory also identifies areas where municipalities may require further technical assistance. Furthering this objective, the inventory contains an unscored survey section soliciting information on a variety of topics. The 2022 inventory includes 42 scored questions with a maximum of 36.5 points. The inventory includes an additional 27 survey questions. State aid withholding is phased in for municipalities with a score that is less than 24 points. The Township of Millburn's 2022 inventory produced a score of 36.5 out of a possible 36.5. Yes, for those questions that were applicable to the township. Just by way of example, some of the questions that are on here says, has your municipality electronically submitted its user-friendly budget section for this current year 2021 or state fiscal year 2022 adopted budget? Yes, we have. Are all municipal employees receiving ongoing cybersecurity training and malware detection, password construction, identifying security incidents, things like that? Yes, we do. Is your municipality ensuring that insurance reimbursements are credited back to the budget appropriation line item and not to MRNA or miscellaneous revenue unanticipated? Does your municipality maintain an up-to-date website containing at a minimum the following past 3 years adopted budgets, the current year proposed budget, including the full adopted budget for the current year when approved by governing body? And in addition to, and these are just a sampling of the questions, but does your municipality have an official social media account or accounts? And if so, is there a written policy establishing guidelines on access, use, and permitted content? Yes, there is, and those are all located on our actual accounts for the public to view. So that is the best practice inventory report. The township did well again this year, and we will not have any state aid withheld.
I do have to make 2 announcements. Free parking for the holidays will start after Thanksgiving Day. And then, as you remember, I appointed Allison Canfield to the planning board at the April 4, 2022 Township Committee meeting as alternate number 2, with the term expiration of December 31, 2023. Please be advised that her term expiration as alternate number 2 is December 31st, 2022, not December 31st, 2023. Okay. Now, are there any comments or questions from the committee in regards to the 2020 best practices, resolution 20-231? Committee? Any questions? No? All good. May I have a motion to approve resolution 20-231? So moved. May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Prupus? Ms. Dahl Eglo?
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak?
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman?
Yes.
Mayor Miggins?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now have Richard, you're going to talk, there's a review of the proposed SID budget and introduce Mr. Grillo,
Yes,
please,
yes,
for
sure.
ordinance 22-242.
Sure. I'd like to present an ordinance titled ordinance number 2625-22. Oh, no.
22-242.
Right. Oh, I'm sorry. Read the wrong thing. Okay. Okay, brief overview of both the budget as Mr. Grillo. Yeah, this is the SID 2023 SID budget resolution 22-242. And this is, and Mr. Grillo is going to come up and go through the budget in detail for us and tell us all the good things that Explore is doing.
So,
You can let him introduce it.
Yeah, then we'll go back.
yeah, okay. Good evening, Mr. Grillo.
Good evening, Mayor, Township Committee. When I did this last year, I didn't speak till 12:15 a.m., so I'm way ahead of the game here. We're gonna have a short presentation and then we'll go through the budget itself. But I'm here this evening on behalf of the Board of Explore Millburn Short Hills to provide an overview of the 2023 priority projects and the budget, which was approved unanimously by that board at our annual meeting on October 13th. Jesse, if you got it. Explore's core organizational priorities are broken down into 4 categories: streetscaping and placemaking, events and marketing, business assistance, and governance. These services are further divided into subcategories, which allow stakeholders to take advantage of benefits that suit their diverse needs, such as social media promotion, educational programs, networking mixers, and more. Additionally, we're committed to serving each of the 5 districts with efforts that are specific to their needs. Each area is different due to the number of businesses, physical layout, walkability, zoning, traffic patterns, and parking, just to name a few. And we work diligently to provide services that reflect these unique opportunities and limitations. Next slide, please, Jesse. So we learned a lot of valuable lessons this year, and we're going to make some changes in 2023, which you'll see reflected in this budget. The Main Street Pedestrian Mall was a massive success this summer. We received statewide recognition from downtown New Jersey with their Best in Placemaking Award. However, the weekend closings in May and June were problematic for traffic, restaurant logistics, and town resources. So next year, we plan to have a full closure in July and August only, and we're considering using Town Hall Plaza as a secondary venue for various activities. We also plan to revamp Girls' Night Out, which we held in May with new logistics, and we will leverage institutional knowledge from business owner volunteers who will serve on the event committee. We also hosted 13 ribbon cutting ceremonies this year, but with the benefits of social media, we're going to streamline our operations and promote new businesses by pivoting to new digital marketing strategies. Next slide, Jess. Explore is committed to enhancing the downtown experience and visual appearance of the town. We oversee the maintenance of over 50 tree pits and 30 flower pots, which is covered in our 2023 budget. We also hope to install new garbage cans and benches throughout the town, including through an agreement I recently negotiated with the developers of the Metropolitan on Upper Milburn Avenue to install 5 new benches and 3 new trash cans on that street at no cost to Explore or the town. We intend to develop an overall streetscape plan for Morris Turnpike, implement a second phase of our public art program, and develop an artistic crosswalk at Town Hall Plaza, if Alex lets me do it. We would also like to develop wayfinding signage to include points of interest and sub-district names. Next slide, please. With nearly 500 businesses in the service area, marketing and events require a diverse approach. We're considering new activities such as Restaurant Week, a sidewalk stroll and sale, a second founding day in the spring, and an autumn-themed Fall into Milburn Short Hills event. I also hope to develop a larger car show, a community-wide jazz and art festival, a Columbus Day Italian food event, with proceeds going to the food pantry, and a salsa night to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. We're going to continue our open streets and live music program and create new ones, such as the summer street scenes, which will feature live painters along the sidewalks. We're also in the process of developing a townwide gift card program, a work local, shop local campaign focused on office workers, and a design a day, a social media rollout with resources to help plan themed days in the town, like Father-Daughter Day, etc. We're also developing a podcast series where we'll be interviewing business owners about their personal stories and entrepreneurship. Next slide, please. One of the most common issues mentioned by local businesses is the need for access to free educational programs and resources. We launched 2 educational programs this year, and some potential programs for 2023 include hosting a small business tax assistance webinar, a virtual job fair, and creating a delivery driver database. I intend to work collaboratively with the township to propose policy recommendations to create a bit more business-friendly climate. This includes participating in the town's development review committee, researching solutions for stranded asset properties, and promoting parking improvements, liquor license reform, and a business incubator. I also plan to work with our zoning and planning boards to address real-world issues that restrict regional competitiveness and investment, and recommend strategies to capture economic growth patterns. Finally, I'll continue my commitment to good nonprofit governance for Explore. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, and we're a 501c3 nonprofit and passed our first audit this year with flying colors. I also expect to be appointed to the Downtown New Jersey Board of Directors, thereby enhancing our status as one of the premier cities in the state. I'll continue to pursue grant funding through Main Street New Jersey and New Jersey Vibrant Places for strategic planning and capacity building support. And I hope to receive word soon on our pending public art application with Essex County. And just this week, we received a grant from the Citizens Bank Foundation for a Minority Women and Immigrant Business Support Program. I believe this roadmap for 2023 is not only ambitious, but necessary. We're proud of what we've accomplished thus far, and we're committed to creating more innovative services for our stakeholders. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions and move on directly to the budget presentation.
Any questions, Mr. Renee?
No question.
Mr. Wasserman? Not for me.
Thank you. Jesse's just going to pull up the document you have in front of you so that the public can see as necessary. So starting with the income portion of the budget, there are three categories shown. Income line number one is the special assessment of $204,000, which remains unchanged from 2022. For historical context, the final assessment collected by the DMDA in 2019 was $206,000 and only served the downtown. This assessment will serve all 5 districts, which increases the service area by approximately 290 businesses more than the DMDA. In its simplest sense, this budget is essentially the same as the DMDA, but provides more services to more businesses in more areas at a lower price per property. Income line number 2 is the projected carryover of $12,000 in unspent 2022 funds and is based on future spending and potential sponsorships for holiday events. Income line number 3 is the township's contribution towards 50% of my salary as required by the establishing ordinance, which adds another $54,710 to the budget. These 3 sources total $270,710 in projected income. We also expect another $15,000 in clean communities funding, which goes directly from the town to vendors who provide services related to our public art program, and about $25,000 in grants and sponsorship. But since the former is not paid to the CID and the latter is anticipated, neither show up in the budget. Concerning expenses, I'm proposing an increase of $7,670 in the staffing category, which includes a scheduled contractual increase for myself of $2,670 and an additional $5,000 for the marketing staffer and administrative support line. This results in a total of $152,420 in staffing and support. Our technology and professional services lines show very slight increases of $600 and $325 respectively compared to 2022. This reflects anticipated cost increase by vendors, but I will be seeking new, lower cost vendors for both audit services and board training. These 2 lines represent $29,000 combined. Our general operating line is budgeted at $2,300 and covers expenses such as dues, fees, and office supplies. I'm also proposing a $20,000 reserve line, just as in 2022, which we won't touch unless absolutely necessary. And finally, I'm proposing $66,900 in non-staffing programs and services. Events, music, and marketing is budgeted at $32,000. $14,000 is allocated to business assistance programs, and $21,000 is allocated to streetscaping and placemaking, which includes our various existing future plantings and landscaping. Overall, I believe this is a sensible, responsible, and effective budget to deliver the quality and quantity of services that our stakeholders expect. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Grillo?
I'd just like to thank you for your service. It's amazing to see you, the way you do stuff. It's always commendable. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Ms. Valaglo, any questions?
Yeah, just want to say, great show on November 3rd. The
Thank you.
holiday showcase was really so well done, and I bought a few things, and it was really amazing. We never had anything like that in town, so.
Thank you. That was, I'm still recovering from that one. There was a lot of late nights, but it was great. And Amanda, our
Yes.
marketing director, was really the brainchild, and it was a lot of fun. So
And
thank
the
you.
space was perfect. It was really nice. We had a good time.
Next year we'll do it. We have to find a new place. So
Mr. Wasserman, do you have any?
Not only have positive feedback, Steve is doing a great job. I mean, I think about the stuff that you say and the stuff that goes unsaid. You know, like, you know, all the things that you do that are not part of the budget, like helping us, you know, put up holiday, you know, helping us plan out, you know, holiday ornaments around the township, or putting up, you know, putting up signage for the parking deck, or, you know, all the other things that you have your hand in. When we had a flood and the merchants were out, you know, were out of luck, you were there for them. So I think that in addition to, you know, all the things that you do, I think the things that are not part of the budget that you do. And I just want to highlight that.
thank you very much.
I don't know if you mentioned, I had to step out, I had something I had to take care of, but you had told me when we were at one of the bands, how many bands apply to play there over the summer and how many you can actually even accommodate. So that has really put Milburn on the map. That's been amazing as well.
I
There's a lot
think
of great things.
this year we did 50 shows throughout the town, including our brunch series, which we bounce around to different locations.
Right.
And I probably have another 25 bands that I can't get on the schedule.
Mm.
So,
So
yeah,
without having Explore Milburn, none of that would have happened.
absolutely.
It's really important to put out there.
And wait to see this gift card program that we're looking at, Explore is looking at, which will be incredible. It'll offer technology to all of our small businesses or in the districts, all of our small businesses. It'll offer gift cards to visitors. It'll be, it's a program that's done in other towns like Summit. And it's very exciting. It'll really help our businesses. And again, without Explore, we would have none of this.
So this evening, we approve, and we're going to set the public hearing for the 2023 Milburn Short Hills organizational budget, Explore Milburn Short Hills. And the public hearing and consideration of the adoption of the 2023 budget is scheduled for the December 20th Township Committee meeting, which begins at 7 p.m. here at Town Hall. And the introduced budget is available in the Township Clerk's office and will also be posted on the Township website. Once the annual assessment roll is certified by our tax assessor, letters will be sent to each property owner within the district and the full roll will be posted on our website. The annual assessment roll will also be scheduled to be before the committee at a future meeting. So is there a motion to approve resolution 22-242?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Prupus, Ms. Dahl Eglo,
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak,
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman,
Yes.
Mayor Miggins.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you all, and thank you, Alex and Jesse, the unsung heroes of the city.
Thank you, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for public comment. When invited to speak, please come to the lectern, clearly state your name and address, and speak loudly so that your comments may be understood by all and properly recorded. For the convenience of our community, there is a remote option available. If you called in and would like to comment, please press *6 now. If you are attending by computer or electronic device, please click the raise hand button. All members of the public wishing to speak will be put into the queue to address the committee. Whenever an audience or committee member reads verbatim from a prepared statement, please email a copy to the Township's clerk office at townclerk@milburntwp.org. And to help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers are asked to limit their comments to 1 3-minute session. You will be prompted when there's 30 seconds remaining. Each individual will be given 1 opportunity to make their public comment. Please be patient, and we will address each member of the public that wishes to speak. This is a business meeting, and please do not address professionals or staff directly, and please do direct all comments to me. A reminder that we are all neighbors and personal attacks will not be tolerated. I will now open the public comment period.
Hi, Jay Morelli, #1 Claremont Drive. I'd like to start by thanking all the candidates that ran in the most recent TC election. I see many of them here tonight. I can say that I felt there was more community outreach across the board from all candidates than I have seen in my 20 years in this town. So kudos to all of the candidates across the board. I know elections can be difficult affairs, but I want to thank everyone. Regarding the Development Review Committee, I have a few questions, but let me start by saying I fully support any effort that increases efficiency, transparency, and accuracy of the permit process. I will also add that according to Explore Milburn data, 80 new businesses have opened in the past 2 years or so in Milburn. So I do get a little skeptical when I hear people say that some businesses won't even consider Milburn because it's too difficult to get a permit to operate. But with that said, here are my questions. And as I said, I support it in principle. Will the DRC have the ability to approve applications, or is it limited to reviewing applications, working with the applicants to address deficiencies and reporting findings to the Planning and Zoning Board? If that's its purview, then I'm fully in support. If, however, it is going to be approving applications, and if it is going to be approving variance requests, I've got a lot more questions. So If you answer me now, I will skip about 20 questions.
The first one, Jay.
Okay, good, and I fully support it. I do want to know if DRC meetings will be open to the public. And I would make a recommendation that the DRC include someone to give a resident assessment of any application for a new business to operate. I looked through the committee members. It did not seem that there was anybody that would take a resident perspective. And I think by giving applicants feedback on how residents might feel about issues and giving them the ability to work those issues out before they go before the planning and zoning board could do nothing but help applicants. So with that, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moreno.
I'm Christine Best, Fairfield Terrace. Nice to see you and down the shore, Maggie.
Yes, it's lovely.
Very nice. And I thank you, Sanjeev, for the wonderful phone call. I'm actually talking about a personal issue that I need some help with you guys from. So I'm not going to be talking about the 5G tonight. I'll follow up separately on that. I have a personal issue that made me start to do research into the Noise Control Act of New Jersey. It has to do with emergency generators. And, you know, I'm just minding my own business and I discovered my neighbor decided to put in a generator 12 feet off the property line, which is the only comment or like statement you have about generator permits is it's in the R34 zone, which is the zones I live in, you know, that it has to be 12 feet. There's no laws or anything really discussing decibel levels, which is interesting because the state of New Jersey, under the New Jersey Noise Control Ordinance, Noise Control Act, actually has levels set during daytime use of up to 65 dBA, and during nighttime use is up to 50 dBA, okay, which, you know, is a reasonable level. It's a little bit noisy. Most emergency generators that are permanent generators run 67 to sometimes 80 depending, which is really excessive. I think we all can agree. I mean, a lot of people decide to have generators. They're quite noisy. You can't open your windows. So it's one thing when you have somebody 200 feet away from you having a generator. When somebody moves it within 12 feet, it's going to be quite excessive. It's going to have be like a lawnmower going on, you know, for 2 weeks straight during the next emergency. So I just, you know, I actually touched base with the planning board, with Eileen, with the engineering board, because there was some engineering land use issues around my property, which you're probably not aware of, and I can't get into the details tonight. I can forward you the email. And also I reached out to building because they also are involved in the plumbing and the electrical aspects of it. I only received a notification from Martha. And, you know, Eileen told me that, you know, the zoning board issues were really relative to the 12 feet, which, you know, so she could kind of walk out of that, and I totally understand. But I didn't hear back from the building, which was concerning because the biggest question I had is, you know, what's the township's position on what is like a safety issue for decibel level, since the state, in my mind, preempts what township laws are. And so, you know, that's concerning to me. And I really didn't get an answer from Jerry. And I think it's really disconcerting when there is a time of an essence sort of, you know, issue in this for me, because my neighbor will put it in and I could very well just call the, you know, Essex County and have them come out and just cite it every time, you know, she's, you know, abusing that, you know. So I am concerned about it. I'm going to send you an email about it. And, you know, I just don't understand how you can have two laws that conflict with one another and how somebody can go through a permitting process without taking that into consideration and even evaluating, and also taking into consideration I know I can only talk about it really quickly, but I'm not, and I did leave a message for Alex a couple of days ago. I know you're very busy, but I had to escalate it to you because I wasn't getting a response. And I don't know who else to go to, but, you know, I'm concerned about it, and that's it. I'll send you guys a follow-up email, and I will follow up on the 5G. I did want to say I'm a little concerned about there's more building going at 340 Main, I mean, on top of the 5G again. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Christine.
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Feld, living in Alexander Lane. I echo Jay's praise to all the candidates that ran in the parade. I think we had more public debates than at any time ever, and there was more outreach. But I think there's been a pledge for transparency by all the candidates, and I think there was a mandate at this point. As earlier today at the best practices inventory, this is like the third consecutive year I've stood up. They need to be posted on the public website. I think, Alex, you didn't really tell some people that there are some changes regarding about conflicts of interest, that the state's trying to push back to the local level, a committee to look at that. And there's more questions about inspections of our apartments for lead investigations. Yeah, it's a survey question, but they're looking into that. As to the SID budget, I think it's very important that there should be a comparison of what went last year, actually line columns. You do that when you do your regular budget. The people should see the differences. Last Thursday night, I pointed out a public notice regarding Newark, how they expanded it. There's a legal issue that there's an elephant in this room about the validity of the expanded appointed 5-district SID under state law. On Thursday and even today, Judge Fisher has issued 2 published opinions as to statutory interpretation. This township has never received a written legal opinion from any legal counsel as to the validity of the SID. This is a statutory interpretation questions. We heard a few minutes ago that the SID received a clean audit. That's false. There's a finding that one professional was retained and paid without any retained executed contract. Monies went out. Also on Thursday, we had a little technical. I'm glad that someone paid attention to my comments because you changed later on today when you did your establishing citizen committee affordable resolution housing. Originally was done by resolution I raised. It had to be done by ordinance, which you are doing. But as to that, as to the agenda, why are some ordinances having a second hearing at the first meeting in December and others at the second meeting? Why aren't they consistent? I just asked that question. As to tonight, there'll be the appointment of a special outside fair share housing litigation attorney. When you look at other municipalities, every year there's certain positions that they always go out for RFQs, such as our municipal attorney. When you look at the proposed resolution, it talks about a proposal dated today. How did it get on the budget? Where was the proposal? Is that the representation limited just for the remainder of this year, or does it go to next year? These are some questions that's not clear from what we have. How many different people did you get? Did you talk to? I don't know the answer. It's interesting that the law firm that you're retaining is a new municipal attorney, basically for Livingston. Question as to the bond ordinances, just for you, is there a supplemental debt statement? Do you have to go to local finance board for approval? And will we be going to the infrastructure bank to pay for a portion of this? Because I think when we explained this before, we went to the infrastructure bank for the first portion. The question is, as to this portion, will we be going? I just don't know from that. And finally, I wish everyone a good Thanksgiving. To remember the other people in this greater state that don't have the benefits, and to remember them, to help me give donations. Also remember that Abraham Lincoln delivered the Gettysburg Address on Thanksgiving, and remember the concept that he talked, this is a government of the people, by the people.
Thank you, Mr. Feld.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jerry Kung. I live at 17 Lee Terrace. So just wanted to recap something that I brought up at the last Township Committee meeting, which is the dump toxicity testing. Last time, I think I brought up that the soil boring, I think it was 23 or maybe it was 21, that they had tested it for polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons a little too far underneath where the contamination should exist. So I'm just wondering if we have an update from the engineering firm as to why that might be the case, or if there's updated testing available that was either submitted to the DEP or can be made available to the public, because I think that's pretty important before we start breaking ground on any potential projects there. The second thing I want to bring up is, and I'm new to this, so excuse me if I'm missing something. I noticed that the bill list includes all outflows. Do we have a sense of what the inflows look like, just so we can compare the inflows versus the outflows? I think generally if we have variable revenues, we might want to keep those in mind if we're going to be approving bill lists. The next thing I want to bring up is, and I didn't mean to bring this up, but Someone said something earlier about the school capacity study, and that we're currently at about 4,800 versus 5,000 historically. And I do want to commend, I don't remember who exactly brought it up, that the capacity should be looked at by school instead of by the entire school system. So, even though the enrollment peaked in, I think it was 2012 to 2013, the enrollment at the middle school probably peaked, I think it was 3 or so years ago. Don't quote me on those numbers, I haven't looked at it in a while. There's also another thing that I wanted to bring up, which is the attrition rate between 8th and 9th grade. That's actually probably contributing to the current trough in enrollment. In the last 5 years, I believe that attrition rate was 8% for each class between 8th and 9th grades, versus the prior 5-year period, it was 3%. So if you work that out, it's about 100 students or so. So just keep that in mind when we're looking at total school enrollments. The fourth thing I wanted to bring up is the stop sign in lot 14. I think I brought it up a couple months back. You said you would look into it. There's still no stop sign as of last week, I think, when I last drove through there, coming onto Short Hills Avenue. And the last thing I want to bring up is, would it be possible to bring back the second round of public comment? And if not, please explain why you would not want to bring that back. And I think that's all that I have for, the other thing. Sorry, I might be going a little over in time. In terms of planning for long-term, I know we were talking about the $1.8 million for the Rose Garden renewal. And then that, we were hit with $500,000 in pensions and $600,000 in healthcare. Do we have a long-term strategic plan in terms of, what our reserves look like and what we want to spend money on? Because it seems like, we were presented a proposal for $1.8 million. Now we're sitting here deciding whether or not that makes sense. And we don't have a sort of rank ordering in terms of the other projects that we'd want to look into over a 3 to 5 year period. We're just sort of, I don't know, maybe I'm looking at the situation wrong, but it seems like we're going off of gut based off of, do we think it's a good idea right now versus putting it into a larger context versus what we want to do for the town over the next 5 to 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Khan.
Hello, I'm Carrie. I live on Undercliff Road, which is very near Taylor Park, although I'm not as close as Fran. I just want to, I had a couple of questions because I think I've been to all the presentations about the park, and I just still wonder if we need a more holistic look at the entire park and not, putting a statue here and looking at the Rose Garden there. And spending $1.8 million seems like a lot of money when, for the most part, if people are coming into the park on Milburn Ave, they're coming through the deli parking lot. They're not walking all the way down to where the Rose Garden is anyway. So so we should make it ADA compliant. We should, have ramps so people can get in with wheelchairs and strollers. The reason I chased the guys into the hallway is because I was wondering why there were still gonna be stairs on one side instead of ramps on both sides, and they explained that. But I guess I just think the park is a big, wonderful place. I'm there probably 3 times a day with my dog, which thank you all for letting dogs in the park.
You're very welcome.
But yes, ma'am. But I guess I just wonder, outside of this 1.8 million that we might be spending, what is the maintenance budget in the park? There's beer cans there this morning, there's soda cans, there are cigarette butts under the picnic table chairs for months at a time. I guess I just wonder about the upkeep of it in totality, and just looking at the park as one big crown jewel of Milburn, as opposed to just looking at this, half acre or whatever the amount of acreage they're looking at right now. And very often when we want to beautify our homes, there is what we want to do and what we can afford to do. And all the time we talk to our kids about, what they need versus what they want. So I'm just hoping that you can maybe look at that, because maybe the park needs more than we're looking at right now. And if we wanted to pay attention to when the dog poop bags run out, because I don't have time to email Alex every time they run out, but right now 5 out of 6 are out. So, just saying. Nobody is hoarding them, people are using them, I bring my own, but I'm just, anyway, thank you.
Thank you so much, Carol.
I think this is a good time for me to get back up because I want to talk about this project as well. I think what you just said was perfectly put. I agree with everything you just said. It's not so much, I mean, I guess because I live across the street from the park, it's my park. So maybe I feel more involved with the park than someone who's living up in the boondocks in Short Hills somewhere. And they might be true. But that said, I have a finance degree. I'm not on a committee, but I do have an MBA. I wrote about finance professionally for 25 years. So finance and money and how it's spent by municipalities is really important to me. So to compare it to Complete Streets, so when we had Complete Streets, I thought, oh, this is gonna be nice. We're gonna put some big granite benches in and fix the pavers and some nice planters and beautiful flowers, you know, I'm all for that. We want the town to look refreshed. And I agree that we could refresh that part of the park without tearing out the rose garden. So we're all very grateful that we didn't lose that rose garden. But so if we're gonna just put in some pavers and make it ADA compliant, and I was disappointed that we didn't get to see the elevation, the view from the street. I mean, that's huge, right? We're talking about a gateway that's gonna have some sort of arch that we have to have. What does that, even that arch cost, and why do we need it? That's my question. It's one part of the cost, but it's costly. And I don't know why we need that. So I think when you look at this price of 1.8 million, it seems to me way out of line for refreshing with some nice new plantings and some ADA compliant pavers. That's really all we need. This is my opinion, of course. I think we have to be a little bit more diligent about spending all of our tax monies. That's really important. And of course, we went totally overboard with Complete Streets. It wasn't just a refresh. It was like $5 million spent on you know what. And thankfully, the folks did fix some of that. And the other last thing is, we're thinking about fixing up the park for our cute little adorable town that we all love here, right? We've all talked about this 100 times. But when we have hundreds of new people moving in here, and I don't have any estimate of how many, but we know it's gonna be a lot of people, more traffic, more congestion, more buildings, big building here, big building there, so who knows where else it's gonna be. We're gonna have to put a lot of money into this town, more infrastructure, and it's gonna have nothing to do with an arch to get you into a park. So I think you have to think not what we need today or tomorrow or in 10 months, but where are we gonna project the spending that this town is going to have to do to pay for the new infrastructure if we're going to have all kinds of new big apartment buildings. The schools are going to go beyond 4,800, I expect. Excuse me, whoever's echoing me, thank you. But you're not supposed to. But I think everybody understands what I'm saying. This is financially frivolous at the moment. And my editor used to tell me that I liked alliteration. So financially frivolous is something I would write if I was writing this up for a magazine. It seems to be a waste of time.
Thank you.
Thank
Michelle.
you.
Thank you.
I just want to say, it's Richard Seibert, Southern Slope Drive, Melbourne. So I know it's your swan song, and you stated it's your swan song, that you wanted to sign this before you leave, but it shouldn't be rushed. There's no reason to rush it. That's all. Don't rush it.
Thank you. Thank you.
She made two comments.
Is there like equity?
Is there anybody on top on the,
I just wanted to ask, I just wanted to be a suggestion, not a criticism.
Stephanie, did you want to talk? Are you getting up?
Stephanie Morgan, 49 Greenwood Drive. So one of the most hotly debated issues on the November 8th ballot in our township was fair share housing. And Mr. Cohen and Ms. Romano captured almost 6,400 votes. And based on what the Democrat candidates said in the various forums in which they participated, the current settlement agreement as well, it seems like it's just that settled. And it would appear that the voters have spoken. Our court hearing is scheduled for December 16th, and we're currently without Fair Share Housing Council. Resolution 22-241 on the agenda tonight to award professional service agreements, special counsel to assist with fair share plan litigation is on tonight's agenda. Ms. Miggins, Mr. Benoit, and Mr. Wasserman can decide not to approve hiring counsel, which places us, I think, in a dangerous position, or to hire the proposed candidate and send them to reaffirm what they believe is the residents' willingness to accept a settlement agreement. Alternatively, they could ask counsel to seek a delay in the hearing in order to allow time to get up to speed on the matter. Once the new members are sworn in, they, along with Ms. Miggins and Mr. Benoit, would be able to fire the attorney approved tonight and hire another lawyer who's a better fit with their strategy. What I'd like to point out is that the voters have spoken, and what we said is that we're strenuously opposed to the current settlement agreement for a variety of reasons, as set forth actually by the Independents and the Republicans during their campaigns. Together, they actually captured 1,100 more votes than Mr. Cohen and Ms. Romano. And in my opinion, responsible township committee members have an obligation to represent us. The number of voters that came out for the midterm election shows that we're engaged, and we have sent a loud and clear message about our concerns about the current fair share housing plan. Committee members, the township administrator, and the public cannot afford to make this decision in a fit of pique, nor based on candidates' pre-election battle cries. The stakes are too high. Choosing our Fair Share Housing Council is key to the process and the outcome of our discussions with the court. Our selection should be based on a seasoned professional's clear-eyed assessment of what's practical and realistic for our township. There are attorneys who will tell us what we want to hear, that we have a better than even chance in prevailing if we litigate. I just have a couple more seconds. I believe that a moderated approach to tweaking the current affordable housing plan while showing a good faith effort at working now to determine how to meet our 2025 round of fair share housing has the best chance of giving us an opportunity to negotiate without further litigation. I'm not interested in seeing my tax dollars pay for more litigation. What I am interested is being accepted as a hardworking member of the Affordable Housing Citizen Committee. Thank you.
So,
Can I give this to you? Sure. Thank you.
I want to go online, Jess. I think there's a few people.
Hello, I am Liam Robbins, 8 Coleridge Road. One issue that is of great importance to me is salaries for recreation department employees, specifically lifeguards. This summer, there was an increase in lifeguard salary at the demand of myself and other lifeguards, but it remains below market rate and below what I believe is reasonable for lifeguards to be paid. So I have continued to follow this issue for the last several months since the summer. And I was told that at tonight's meeting, they would decide lifeguard salaries for the upcoming summer. And I'm just curious as to when exactly that's going to happen. And I hope that whatever you do decide, it will raise the lifeguard wage to something much more reasonable than it has been up to this point. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, Perry Urso, 514 Milburn Avenue in Short Hills.
Good evening.
On November 2nd, 2022, I sent an email to Mr. McDonald, Mr. Molman, and Mr. Grillo. It's disappointing that the BA tonight did not include Wonder Trucks in his reports. Also, when will Mr. McDonald answer Mr. Feld's outstanding questions, and most recently, Mr. Ben Stoller's questions? Regarding the 2023 SID budget presentation listed on the agenda tonight does not include any comparisons from previous years. Also, the SID is being compared to the DMDA downtown, which is the favored district and receives a majority of the benefits, which can be reviewed in the SID's event schedule, which I received by way of Oprah. Also, property owners are assessed at a lower rate, and where the 4 other districts are at 100% increase. To date, why hasn't Township Attorney still not provided a legal opinion regarding the validity of the SID entity? Does the Township Attorney find that it is more beneficial that this body continues to litigate and not mediate? Will this body investigate the $2 million overpayment to this Township Attorney? And lastly, Committeewoman Eglo read into the record at a July 2020 TC meeting her objection to the SID, her concerns with Ms. Prupus's voting on the matters as a merchant and posing and being a conflict. There is copies, and I'm happy to send you this document that was read. It's actually in your minutes. In addition, we have Mayor Miggins, who also has a business within the 5 districts, and Mr. Wasserman, who has advocated for Ida, after Ida, for a business outside the 5 districts, where he actually does do business. These 2 TC members also pose as a voting member conflict of interest together with Ms. Prupus. Carefully vote when you're voting on the SID 2023 budget. Thank you for your time. Have a nice
Thank you,
evening.
Ms. Urso. Have a nice evening. Folks, I'm getting ready to close public comment. Anyone? Bueller? I will now close public comment. At this time, our professionals and committee members may directly answer any questions made by the public. Mr. Benayak, do you have anything to say, sir?
Most of the time we see people come in, the same people come in and the same conversation happens. No matter what you respond back to them, they bring up the same question, pretending it to be never been answered before. But today I saw another resident come in and ask for explanation on affordable housing. And I would like to answer that. I had voted for, in the last meeting or meeting before that, in favor of going back because Ms. Prupus and Ms. Eglo had been talking about going back to renegotiate. I have voted yes for it, and I will vote yes again today. So I don't think there was any delay on my part because in the closed session, there was no formal decision that was supposed to be made. It was the attorney they met with, whatever they chosen with, I'm fine with it. I said it then, and I'm saying it again now. So I felt a little responsible again to touch on this topic because I'm seeing her for the first time. So I think you should know that answer. But no matter what anyone says out there, there was nothing that is going in my head to delay any of this process. Explaining it. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Benayak?
I'm good. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Ms. Eglo?
Yeah, so about the park, we're not rushing it. It's been going on a long time. And the idea is to actually invite people to come down more from Lackawanna to have that gateway as an opening. As I said, we can vote on it this year. You guys can vote on it next year. You could make it happen. You could not make it happen. But eventually you have to make a decision, and no decision is decision. So no decision, and a park stays old and in disrepair, and will just get older and in more disrepair. So I hope something happens. I hope that Alex can get together with MKW, if they can find some places to shave some dollars. That's it. It's to enhance enhance our entire town. And, you know, things do, sometimes you just replace a bathroom, sometimes you do the bathroom in the kitchen. But eventually you have to do something. That's it. Oh, and I'm sorry, and there will be more people in town. So we want to give them an opportunity to use our parks. And it's just kind of sad because you go to a lot of other towns and they're constantly doing things, they're constantly improving, so that's it.
Mr. Wasserman?
Yes, thank you so much, Mayor. So somebody brought up before about long-term planning. And I think that it's important to say that the town, we actually hired this great company that did their visioning plan, and it really was the long-term planning, and there was a lot of engagement with the township, and there was a lot of input. So the park idea, the gateway idea, was born in the visioning plan, and Alex, is the visioning plan still on the website? It's actually a really good read if anybody's interested to look at the visioning plan, and a lot of effort was put into that. And then Ms. Urso brought up that I support, I don't know who she was talking about, different merchants in town. I'm very proud to say I support a lot of businesses in town. I get my coffee in the morning at Dunkin' Donuts. I visit a lot of shops. My wife and I shop in town incessantly. And that is true that I support a lot of businesses, but I don't think I'm biased in any sense. So I just want to point that out. And in terms of, Alex, in terms of lifeguards, can I give a shout out to our lifeguards? Those kids work hard, or is there?
There, you just did it.
You're about to approve an ordinance that
We're increasing the rate.
God bless. All right, good. I want to help our lifeguards.
So you're finished. And I'll ask you questions as we go along. So for Ms. Best, we can find out about somebody to get back to her, but I don't know about noise decibel levels, and more people do have generators because the power goes out a lot, so.
Correct, and I think that within zone, it's within zoning, we're happy to respond to Ms. Best, but also, she is correct that the state would supersede in terms of decibel level. However, I don't know and have not had the opportunity to research whether there's an exemption during an emergency in which someone does not have power or heat or whatever it might be, whether those decibel levels are still in play. So there's a lot to consider with that concern. And so we'll certainly continue to work through that and get back to Ms. Best.
Awesome. And then you already had given Mr. Felt you talked about the bank, all the portions, the supplemental debt statement, right? You kind of concurred with them when he brought it up.
Yeah, I mean, those things are there.
And then Mr. Wasserman, I don't see why we couldn't do comparatives of the SID budgets. Maybe somehow you could get Mr. Grillo to put that up for the people. I mean, we don't get involved with their attorneys or any of that type of stuff, but we
But our
could.
budget is posted, it's posted online. There's a lot of transparency.
And is last year's budget posted online as well?
I have to check on that.
Okay.
Sure on that.
Maybe we could look into that.
I think it's far easier, sorry, I think it's just easier for Mr. Grillo to provide a side-by-side comparison.
Sure.
I'm sure you'd have no issue.
Awesome.
And Alex, just one other thing, if somebody has a noise complaint, can you tell our residents how they're supposed to report a noise complaint? Like, what are they supposed to do?
Well, first and foremost, depending on the time, they can call the non-emergency number of the Melbourne Police Department. They'll come out and have a look, an investigation, or a listen. Generally speaking, if there is something that can be remedied, they will ask those individuals to remedy it. And if those individuals choose not to, then and they get called back to that same location, it usually results in some sort of violation or ticket. If things are persistent, or if there is a concern about the decibel level, I think Ms. Best had pointed it out. Essex County Health Commission can be called, and they'll come out and do a reading. And they'll read from a certain point, I believe in the example of the generator would be from the property line, as to whether that generator or whatever it might be, it exceeds the decibel level, as was pointed out, 65 decibels during the daytime and 50 at night.
Stop sign on lot 14.
Stop sign on lot 14 needs to be done by ordinance. It is on tonight for introduction as a part of the chapter 7 revisions.
That's William Roberts. Mr. Roberts, you're gonna be happy with the lifeguard salary. Oh, Mr. McDonald will be talking about that tonight. And then Ms. Morgan was concerned about the court hearing. So this evening, we have a resolution to hire special counsel to assist with the fair share plan litigation. The law firm that we're hiring, Ms. Eglo and Ms. Prupis had interviewed all the candidates and set forth Mr. Cantor as being the attorney that they wanted the township to hire. So that's whose name's on the paperwork for tonight. I'm sorry he couldn't join us. He had a previous commitment, I'm told. But Ms. Eglo and Ms. Prupis are in charge. They're on the subcommittee, and they're working through all of the fair share housing. That was what they were tasked to do, and that's what they've been doing. So I can't see why there would be any other change, regardless of who comes on or not. When we hire people, Mr. McDonald, we normally hire them for a year at a time. How does that work? Would you explain that to the township residents?
Yeah, I mean, normally, I think you have to use sort of the time of year that it's being done, and in particular the subject matter which is being done for when considering that. Generally speaking, a professional service is done for a year. It can only be done for a year. And so this particular contract, based on the fact that it is a month out from the compliance hearing, and there will likely be additional items post compliance hearing, has been extended into 2023. Sometimes if we hire a professional at the beginning of the year, whether it's April or something like that, it will be extended to the end of that current year. Also, sometimes things are project based on a professional service, and you're going to, hire them until the project is complete, which generally doesn't always run beyond a year point in time. So it can vary, but most times it is done for a year, and it's usually done a calendar year.
Okay. And then
What's his first name? Yeah.
I mean, we will certainly get to that, but I hesitate just answering people that call out. I'm sorry.
I got you. Just most of the
also,
time you say first name.
excuse me, Mr. Seaver. Thank you. Also, Ms. Eglo, can you speak to, you interviewed, Mr. Belts had questions about it, you had interviewed the different attorneys, and you've discussed with them, and why don't you just tell everybody?
So we interviewed several attorneys. We reached out, Alex reached out to many. All the township committee members were invited to join us in the interviews. Hope Wayne can see me. We're all invited to come to interviews, and they were comfortable with Tara, myself, and Alex taking the lead on this. And we came up with a person who fit what we needed to have done for the compliance hearing.
Does he think he has enough time between getting hired tonight and the compliance hearing? That's about a month to get caught up.
Well, I don't really know what his strategy is going to be, if he is going, I don't know, and I'm not going to put it out there because that is a legal strategy, and we have to discuss it as township committee members behind closed doors.
Not transparency, not.
Well, I don't know what his strategy is going to be. We have to hire him. He was not going to start work until he knew he had a contract, and I think that is really fair. And why would he start going to work if you weren't gonna approve him tonight? Because we don't know if you were gonna, guys, Tara had something planned that was months out. We changed the meeting from last Tuesday. She could not change her airfare. She's on a plane now, or she would have zoomed in.
Sure.
So she and I honestly did not know if the three of you were gonna approve Mr. Cantor's contract. So fairly, he was not gonna start work until he knows that he is employed.
But since we put you in charge, we thought it was important, yes. Mr. Sanjeev, do you know him, Mr. Vinayak? Have you ever met him before?
I think it's Jared Kenter. I
Yeah.
don't know him, but someone said.
Your mic.
Livingston,
Your mic's up.
he's Livingston attorney. That's all I know.
You never met him?
I've never met him.
No. Okay, Mr. Wasserman, you know.
No, I have never met him either. Is there, Diane, is there a reason why you liked him over other?
Well, first of all, you all three did have the opportunity, and we asked you, please don't interrupt me ever again, Mr. Vinayak. You all three were given the opportunity. We asked you several times to please take part in the interview process. You all three declined. So yeah, we picked him. We like what his background is. We like what he presented us with. And also someone had to be willing to do this, and he's willing, and he believes he has the gravitas and the experience to help Milburn out. And I think you can all realize going to a compliance hearing of this of this importance without an attorney would have just been like suicide for the town. So this is who we have. And we're gonna hopefully approve his contract, and then we will meet with him again. Tara and I did meet with him twice.
Okay, great.
And yeah.
Do you know if he's working on any other cases or anything? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. He is?
So just to add a little bit to that is that Jared Cantor, who is the current Township of Livingston General Counsel, as well as their Special Counsel for Affordable Housing, is also in the township, in Morris Township. Both of those municipalities are currently engaged with Fair Share Housing on separate matters outside of their settlement agreement, but still engaged. Mr. Cantor also, and just from the conversations that I had with Ms. Eglo and Ms. Prupus, also offered a geographical advantage in the fact that he is close by and will be able to meet with the township committee easier than others that were interviewed that may have had a longer travel. Somewhere in Trenton, one was from Mount Laurel. So they were pretty spread out. So I think that was another reason behind Mr. Cantor's.
Also, I think what's really important is he has a relationship with our special master, with the planner. And I think what I've said on the campaign trail over and over again, that what this process has to go to the special master. Fair Share Housing has to approve what we're gonna moderate or modify. And there is a really set way to make anything happen. And you can't just appear with a plan and say, take it. Doesn't work that way. Fair Share Housing has to be willing to accept it. The special master is our conduit to the judge. And it's not simple, it's not easy. And if you're not in this field, it's very difficult to understand it. And that is why we had to go out and get someone who we really believe is very professional, has experience, and will do Milburn right. And it's still not a slam dunk, we don't control this, much as many people out there think we do. So, well,
Mr. Vinayak.
Before I was asked to not interrupt, I wasn't interrupting. I was actually trying to sell, since it is Livingston attorney. And when I came into the township, I've spoken to a lot of attorneys. I've spoken to a lot of different people just to understand. I've attended seminars. I remember Jared, when it was said Jared and Livingston Township. I remember I've spoken to him once on the phone. I don't know about what matter, but I believe I've spoken to him just in full transparency. It wasn't affordable housing at all. It was when I actually joined the township around that time. And I've spoken to multiple lawyers just to understand how township works, how to kind of gather information around what I'm getting into, because I like to learn. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So assuming we hire him tonight, so
Sure.
assuming we hire him tonight, will he come to the next meeting? So
I think that would be, I'm sure you've got a lot of, once he's hired, you and Tara will be busy working on this and then report back in, and maybe you can ask him to come to the next meeting so we can all meet him. I think that would be a great idea.
well, once he is contracted, we will tell him the date of our next meeting.
Okay. And hopefully you'll have been working with them. for a while.
Well, yeah, Alex will set up a meeting for
Yep.
us.
Awesome. Okay, so that's it there. We will now go to, yep, I'm sorry, Mr. McDonald.
I did want to comment. Mr. Feld had asked why, just out of curiosity, why the ordinances are separated into two different meetings. I think
Yes.
that there are 7 ordinances on for introduction, and we were trying to avoid 7 ordinances having public hearing at one meeting. So that is the reason, nothing more. Just division of labor, so to speak. Also, to Ms. Urso, I do apologize for not getting back to her regarding Wonder, but I did have a conversation with Wonder representatives regarding what rightfully she was upset about in terms of a Wonder truck being parked on private property, a parking space that is owned by her restaurant. And they were delivering or providing their service to a resident upstairs. Presumably, we asked them to be cognizant of that, if not turn off that place altogether so that it does not conflict. They agreed. She had a couple other questions regarding their ability to operate in such a way. We have been provided an explanation from the state of New Jersey Health Department as to why Wonder is able to operate the way that they are. So I do apologize for not getting back to her, but that is what occurred as a result of her complaint. They should not be delivering to that area anymore.
Mayor, if I may, just respond to one issue that came up.
Yes, Mr. Mariziti.
I apologize for not being there, but as I explained at the beginning of the meeting, I was diagnosed a couple of hours ago with conjunctivitis. I thought it would all be better for everybody if I wasn't there. But I want to clear up some misunderstanding about the issue of mediation in the Bear Properties case.
Yes.
The township has consented to go through a process of non-binding arbitration, which the judge will schedule as soon as the issue about the confidentiality agreement concerning the release of the leases that we've asked for in discovery is resolved. We have submitted a proposed order. Mr. Feld has submitted a different view, and the judge hasn't responded yet as to which one he accepts. So once that's done, we will move on to non-binding arbitration in that matter.
Thank you. Thank you so much. The Township Committee will now consider consent agenda resolutions. However, there is changes to the proposal for resolution 22-235 telecommunications consulting services for Hoplite Communications has been made. As per Hoplite's communication proposal, carrier deployment plan, construction oversight, and post-construction compliance, numbers 4, 6, and 8 respectively, are being removed. Therefore, they will not be part of the proposed contract at this time. Are there any comments from the committee in regards to any items listed on the consent agenda items?
Wait, I'm sorry, can you just say, is 22-235 still on the agenda, just with changes?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, so they're still gonna be investigating. And I just think 238 is important. People should just know where those new crossing signs are gonna be. They're by Hartford School?
That's correct. That is Addison and White Oak Ridge Road.
Yeah, so that's a good spot.
Okay.
That's it.
Anyone else, gentlemen? No? May I have a motion to approve resolutions 22-232 through resolutions 22-240, which are listed on the consent agenda?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Purpose, Ms. Dahl Eglo,
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak,
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman,
Yes.
Mayor Miggins.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We now have resolution 22-241 to award professional service agreement special counsel to assist with fair share plan litigation, Antonelli Cantor PC. Are there any comments from the committee in regards to resolution 22-241? Any other questions, or have we answered them fully?
I think so.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve resolution 22-241?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Purpose, Ms. Dahl Eglo.
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak,
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman,
Yes.
Mayor Miggins.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Vinayak, you are scheduled to sponsor ordinance 2622-22.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to present an ordinance entitled ordinance number 2622-22. An ordinance to vacate an existing drainage easement located at 801 Ridgewood Road, known as Block 606, Lot 15 in the Township of Melbourne, Essex County, New Jersey. Mr. McDonald, do you want to just give a brief explanation on this?
Sure. In proceeding with the drainage area projects that were described by Mr. Vinayak and Mr. Wasserman previously, one of those areas included 801 Ridgewood Road. However, we had to take easement of the other side of their driveway rather than the side that has a current easement on it. So this ordinance is for us to remove that unneeded and unnecessary easement on their property. And we've already put another easement on there. So this is just a little bit of cleanup of that particular individual's property.
Okay, if that's clear, then I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with law in the item and for hearing and final passage on Tuesday, December 6, 2022.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Purpose, Ms. Stahl Eglo,
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak,
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman,
Yes.
Mayor Megan's.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Salt Eichler, you are scheduled to sponsor ordinance 2623-22.
I would like to present an ordinance entitled ordinance number 2623-22, ordinance amending chapter 2 administration of the Milburn Township Ordinance Code. Ordinance to revise existing requirements concerning the time at which township committee meetings take place. So forever, they were always at 7:30 PM. During COVID, we changed it to 7 PM, and this is just making that legal in the books.
Permanent
So,
change.
Permanent change to 7 PM. It seems to have been working out fine. So I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, and the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with the law in the item and for hearing on final passage on Tuesday, December 6, 2022.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Purpose, Ms. Stahl Eglo,
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak,
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman.
Yes.
Mayor Megan's.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm scheduled to sponsor ordinance 2624-22, procedure for introducing, let's see, hold on. Ordinance revising and supplementing the salaries and salary ranges of offices and positions in classified and unclassified civil service positions of the Township of Milburn, County of Essex for the year 2021 through 2026. So the purpose is to amend the salaries and salary ranges of offices and position in classified and unclassified civil positions. Some ranges are established by collective bargaining agreements with unionized employees of the township. Additionally, some agreements do not extend to 2026 and will have no salary range shown for that year.
Yes, so first and foremost, the non-union salaries that are included in this are camp counselors, camp director, camp counselor, and also lifeguard per hour fees. It was brought to our attention over the summer that the lifeguard positions were out of sync with current market, and we were able to adjust within the range that we currently had. However, that range then would leave no room for a 2023 increase or a 2024 increase. Therefore, we are adjusting those now as we have settled with all of our unions in our collective bargaining agreements, and we are adjusting their salaries through the ordinance. And again, those times of contract differ. Some are 2024, some are 2025, and some are 2026. So with the FMBA or the fire department, that is 2024. The UPSCU is 2025, and then with the Teamsters, which is our DPW union, that is 2026. This just codifies those changes that were collectively bargained.
We want to tell the lifeguards what that range is.
I'm sure we can let them know once it's modified here.
Okay, wonderful.
It came from the rec committee, the recommendation.
Good.
And they're working with the rec committee directly.
Okay, great.
And I have a question for Mr. McDonald on this. Is this in line with what we had discussed and what you reported on and the union agreement that we had?
Yeah, so for the fire department, it is a 4-year contract with 2% per year. With the UPSEU, that is a 5-year contract at 2.5% per year. And the Teamsters is a 2.5% for 6 years in that contract. Yes.
Thank you.
I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with law on the item and for hearing and final passage on Tuesday, December 6, 2022. May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Prupus, Ms. Stahl Eglo,
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak,
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman,
Yes.
Mayor Miggins.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ordinance 2625-22. Mr. Wasserman, you are scheduled to sponsor.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to present an ordinance entitled ordinance number 2625-22, bond ordinance funding and emergency appropriation providing for the township's allocable share of unfunded portion of phase 1 of the flood mitigation facilities project as a joint meeting of Essex and Union counties, and by for the township of Milburn in the county of Essex, state of New Jersey appropriating $1,360,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $1,360,000 bonds or notes to finance the cost thereof. Alex, do you want to walk us through this?
Yeah, I mean, just a brief explanation on this, as this was brought up in previous meetings regarding, this is the, as a result of the escalation costs of the flood mitigation project at the joint meeting of Essex and Union County located in Elizabeth, which the township is a 4% partner in. This is our unfunded portion of that escalation. The committee had previously committed to moving forward with that. With that group to fund phase 1. So that is this portion.
And we really don't have a choice.
Not really, no. I mean, you do. This, well, and it's a massive infrastructure undertaking as well as a public health and safety issue. If for whatever reason that becomes inundated by floodwaters and you didn't do the protection that you wanted.
Yeah, that's what part. I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with the law in the item and hearing the final passage on Tuesday, December 20th, 2022.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Prupus, Ms. Stahl Eglo.
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak,
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman,
Yes.
Mayor Miggins.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Coleglo, you are scheduled to sponsor ordinance 2626-22.
I'd like to present an ordinance entitled ordinance number 262622, an ordinance to amend and supplement the revised general ordinances of the Township of Milburn, Chapter 8, Parks and Recreation Areas. The purpose of this ordinance is to make permanent a change to Chapter 8, Parks and Recreation Areas to permit dogs in Taylor Park. After a successful 1-year pilot program that permitted dogs in certain areas of Taylor Park under certain guidance, specific guidance, the Township Committee will make the change permanent to allow for dogs in Taylor Park. This ordinance will outline the specific guidance from Resolution 21-288 that created a successful pilot of dogs in Taylor Park, including but not limited to the maximum number of dogs one person can walk, and establishing a designated path for dog walking. A new section 8-2.6 will be establishing under Chapter 8 for this purpose. The prohibition of dogs in all other municipal parks will remain in effect. Okay. I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with law on the item and for hearing and final passage on Tuesday, December 20th, 2022.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Prupus, Ms. Stahl Eglo.
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak.
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman,
Yes.
Mayor Miggins.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm scheduled to sponsor ordinance 2627-22. And that is the ordinance amending and supplementing the Township of Milburn Development Regulations and Zoning Ordinance. Do we want to talk about that?
You have Graham.
Graham, you're on
available.
the phone, I think.
Jesse, can you bring Graham in, please? Just because there were some modifications to it that sort of put it more toward what Mr. Moriali was speaking about with those individuals that are responsible for review and what the DRC can accomplish.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Miggins and Township Committee. Just going to, first, I just want to quickly thank Elise Hubbard with Mayor Ziti Falcon and Brad Carney for their assistance in conducting a legal review. As you'll remember at the previous Township Committee meeting, I did preview this, an initial draft of this ordinance for your benefit. As a reminder, Resolution 22-036 adopted by the Township Committee way back in January outlined a working group to study and develop the Development Review Committee. Before you this evening is an amended version of that prior discussion that I had given with you to more appropriately align the proposed Development Review Committee with statutory requirements of the municipal land use law. So the version of the ordinance as presented before you this evening establishes a Development Review Committee that consists of members of municipal staff and professionals retained by the township to conduct advanced review of applications filed to either the Planning Board or the Board of Adjustment. And during this advanced review process, township professionals and staff will sit down with an applicant, meet with them, review the application filing, determine the extent of variances or deviations from requirements, and also talk through any technical aspects or other issues, including police, fire, or other professionals at the township to ensure safety issues and other key matters contained within an application for development are addressed by an applicant before appearing at the full board. As you will remember, in the prior version, we did have members of the boards participating, and to avoid any further conflicts, all discussions and deliberations by members of the Planning Board and Board of Adjustment will remain before the full boards rather than involving them at the Development Review Committee level, if that makes sense. Happy to entertain any questions. Also, just wanted to note that this application, this ordinance before you this evening will be referred to the Planning Board at their meeting on December 7th for Master Plan Consistency Review as required under 40:55D-64, and then subsequent second reading on December 20th. That's why this matter is scheduled for second read on December 20th.
Just one thing I'd like to add to that is that what this does is that it makes that review of commercial and multifamily residential compulsory by the staff and not something that applicants can choose to do if they want. That this by codifying it makes it compulsory to those applicants.
Yes, that's correct. And in furtherance to that point, it is compulsory and it is also only applicable to multifamily applications, which are 3 and more dwelling units, or non-residential or mixed use projects as well. 1 and 2 family dwellings would be exempt from this process.
And Graham, also, if they do not require a variance, correct?
So this is, yes.
Explain the variance part.
Right. So that is one additional piece that we will have to address separately, the minor site plan review without a variance process. That will be done separately as a subcommittee of the Planning Board through a separate process as legal staff has advised. So the ordinance before you this evening is just germane to the Development Review Committee process to review applications for site plan or subdivision filed to the Planning Board or Board of Adjustment.
Was there any thought given to what Mr. Morreale had brought up about a citizen being part of this process in some way?
That is certainly something that I think that this committee could entertain. However, the municipal land use law is very clear in that it tries to intend that public commentary and public participation be part of the process and the public hearing before the board, because at that time, the members of the board can certainly avail themselves of the public and receive that public input and make modifications or amendments to an application. We can certainly evaluate with the legal folks the ability to involve citizen commentary in this process. Having participated in a number of these development review committees in other communities as well, as part of the technical staff or municipal staff review of applications, we have always advised applicants to meet with members of the community, meet with their adjoining properties, and meet with residents prior to appearing at the board to mitigate or address any high-level concerns that the public may have.
But from your experience in other towns, or is there a citizen advocate on any of these boards, or it's generally just staff review and then it goes to hearing?
Typically, in this format, this is just for staff review. During this process, an application gets filed. This is where the applicant will sit down with professionals, and the professionals will, walk through the application, identify what complies with the ordinance, what doesn't, direct the applicant as far as additional variance relief that may be needed that they didn't notice when they put the application together. Those types of things. It's much more of a working session to prepare the applicant and talk through those technical aspects or modifications. Typically these applications that do appear before the DRC, once they exit the DRC process, are often much different than they are when they started. So that's where sometimes it can be, a little bit tough to receive and solicit public input because the application typically changes during the course of development review committee review.
Isn't it going to the planning board anyways, where there are residents?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
it's
So
going
it's-
to go to them.
So downstream,
Its approval is on them, not really on the
there are
staff.
public hearings.
Right,
yeah.
and I think Graham's point is well taken, and as the planner and a part of this development review, where the individuals or group, particular areas, township or groups should be made aware or have public input, or public session, that can always be referred to. In particular, the Wells Fargo property went through that exact process. And they went out and they did 2 public sessions to those at the library and things like that. So I think that point is well taken.
I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with law on the item and for hearing and final passage on Tuesday, December 20th, 2022. May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Prupus, Ms. Stahl Eglo,
Yes.
Mr. Vanayak,
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman,
Yes.
Mayor Megan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ordinance 2628-22, Ms. Stahl Egler, you are scheduled to sponsor.
I'd like to present an ordinance entitled ordinance number 2628-22, ordinance amending chapter 7 traffic of the revised general ordinances of the Township of Milburn. The proposed ordinance, the proposed amendments to chapter 7 traffic of the Milburn General Code, guys, is intended to address several recommendations of the Parking Ad Hoc Committee, including but not limited to the establishment of stop signs for several off-street municipal parking lots, to modify the no right on red at Ridgewood Road and Main Street, and reconfigure Lot 2 parking type counts. So there's a lot of stuff in here, Alex. It might be easier to rattle these off than I would. Oh, but wait, I want to take the one that, because this is for South Mountain, Main Street. No right on red. Wait, is that the one? Yeah, it's only 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Am I catch which? Yeah, and 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Wait, there's so much in here. Which one is that one? It's not 24/7 anymore.
This should actually,
Yeah, right.
This needs to be revised. No, this is no parking. This is no
Which is
parking.
the one that was,
This is.
so it used to be 24/7, no red on red. Yeah, no, it has to be
So Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday. Yeah, so that was really important to South Mountain and all the other ones. You take them.
Okay.
It's all-
Yeah, there are several changes under chapter 7, which encompasses all of our traffic. In particular, changing Main Street from Taylor Street to Ridgewood Road and Rector Streets to 2 hours. That's consistent with all on-street parking. It's currently 3 hours. Main Street, this was the attempt to produce a little bit better traffic flow in front of the cleaners and the nail place prior to Ridgewood Road and Rector, to be able to change the parking limits there, similar to the ones that are up by M&T Bank. That would hopefully allow for better traffic flow as cars are trying to take right on Ridgewood Road. Same thing with the right on Milburn Avenue, up north of that. It also addresses the stop signs in various parking lots, some that currently exist, some that are looking to exist. The codification of those stop signs allows the police department to enforce them. In particular, lot 14 is going to receive a stop sign as well, and the no turn on red, which Ms. Eglo had alluded to. So designation and types of lots. So this was a major change in lot number 2, which is the parking deck. which is a reallocation of those spaces that deck is currently underutilized. In particular, we are increasing the amount of shopper parking. Shopper parking will be all on the first floor, 103 spaces. We are increasing the amount of business parking, 93 spaces in total, 25 on the floor outside, and another the remainder on the second floor, 40, an increase of the 24-hour spaces in the deck, 40 of those on the second floor, and 155 total commuter spaces remaining in the deck. So we call those permit spaces that will allow us the ability to flex them between different types of parking, depending on what the current need is. This also changes the permit allocation or the lot count allocation in lot 9 to allow us to flex between an all-day parking lot if need be. That's grown in popularity with the amount of people that are commuting on a different schedule than they used to. So we are going to make changes to lot 9 as well. It also eliminates the part-time business permits where designated. That was something that was brought up as a result of a particular concern. It was never utilized. That is the same for overnight parking permits in designated lots. That is also being eliminated. And it also establishes a fee for EV charging stations. And that is going to be done by per kilowatt hour on a per kilowatt hour basis.
Down the road. Did you say this one?
That's just the start of the ordinance. So what this ordinance will show is that, you know, things that are amended within those particular subsections, because it is a lot and because it is quite lengthy. So there are, and just to be clear, there are no changes in permit costs.
Okay. The next part you're moving. Oh, I already moved it away. Where is it? I moved that this ordinance. I moved all the papers. Where is it? I move this ordinance be taken up on first reading and the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with the law in the item for hearing and final passage on
December 6th.
on Tuesday, December 6th, 2022.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Prupus, Ms. Stahl Eglo,
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak,
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman.
Yes.
Mayor Miggins.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we go to old business, and on old business, we have the Affordable Housing Citizen Committee, which Ms. Prupus is in charge of, or is in. So she's not here to discuss this.
Yeah, I really don't have much to comment on except for that that this is a draft put before the Township Committee. Welcome any comments that you may have on it going forward. So
We, as part of the process, it was a request made to Mr. Grillo to participate in the Citizens Committee, and the Explore Board had a long discussion about it, and they, you know, and the feeling of the board was that the executive director shouldn't participate directly in this because of that, you know, basically just because of all the other things that he's responsible for. I mean, if you look at, for instance, the holiday schedule with like such a robust schedule and all the meetings all the efforts he has to do in terms of supporting the business community and all the engagement work he does, the board kind of felt like, you know, this would take away from his duties. So with all due respect, the board really didn't want him, you know, it didn't mean that that Explorer couldn't assist, you know, in some way down the road in terms of any of the work, but in terms of, you know, going to meetings on a constant basis, you know, his mission is really to support the businesses, you know, drive engagement in the township and do all these wonderful things he's been doing. So we really didn't want to take him away from that.
Yes, I think that explains it. And are you going to start having somewhere online for people to put in their applications, their desire to be on this, or you know?
This is, I don't know.
Yeah.
I wish Tara were here to tell us.
Yeah.
Like even the Millburn Board of Ed president or their designee. Has anyone asked them? Like you had asked Mr. Grillo and he said no. Has anyone asked the Millburn Board president or their designee?
think they would go to the board.
Well, when you met with superintendent, it didn't come up.
No, no,
Yeah.
no, we didn't discuss that, and that's, you know.
We can certainly, we can
Should
certainly
we-
pose that question.
Yeah, it's really in its infancy here.
And I also recommended, like an environmental person as one of my recommendations, just because of the Woodmont situation. You know, I'm just throwing that out.
So what do we wish to do?
Still working on it.
Still working on it.
Yeah.
Okay, still working on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, you know, I will reconvene with Ms. Prupus and then we'll,
That's us,
yep,
next meeting?
yep.
Okay, great. That was all there is in old business. There are no new items listed under new business. So may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? So moved. May I have a second?
Second.
Good night, Norwich Hills.